Great. I'm going to just pull up and share my screen to start the.
Should I welcome her?
presentation.
Can I say quick welcome or, oh, is that in this, is in the slideshow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, welcome to the community meeting that we're going to be putting on tonight. This is our development department, so people can understand how development happens in our community. I want to say thank you to all of our staff that are here this evening. I appreciate you being here, and we try to keep the public as informed as possible. I see a lot of times on social media, people are, have ideas and.
Oh no.
So,
oh, you cut out for a second there.
And this happens all the time. We need better broadband in South County. I mean, it just drives me crazy. Yeah. Definitely we need to work on that. But I just wanted to say, thank you to all of you. And this gives the public a better understanding of how this department works, how new businesses come into our community, and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Susie Merriam. I'm the director of the Community Development Department. And as Jimmy stated, tonight we're going to talk about what the Community Development Department does, specifically what the Planning Division does in the Community Development Department. As you can see, on this slide, we've got 4 divisions. Tonight, again, we're going to focus on planning, and I like to kind of describe our 4 divisions like this. So first, you would go to talk to the planning division when you want to build anything or open a new business. Once you get approval from planning, if you're building something, then you would go and talk to our building division, and they would make sure that whatever you're building is safe and isn't going to fall down. Now, if you happen to skip visiting the planning department and the building department, and you go ahead and open a business or build something without permits, our friendly code enforcement staff might be paying you a visit and giving you a reminder that you need to go talk to planning and building and get permits for what you're doing. And then finally, we have our housing division that provides funding for the construction of affordable housing in Watsonville, and also provides loans to qualified residents to be able to purchase homes in the city of Watsonville. And again, tonight, we are going to focus just on the planning division. So our agenda tonight, I kind of went over what CDD does, and on the screen you can see that is our planning division. We have Matt Orbach, Ivan Carmona, Sarah Weichel, and Justin Meek, and they are all on the call tonight. And we're going to talk a little bit about how zoning works, the limits on government control of local businesses. And then Sarah and Ivan are also going to talk about the steps required to open a business in Watsonville. And then we'll turn it over and just have question and answer or discussion about really anything that you would love to know about our department. So I'm going to start with, this is Justin's son a couple years ago. So here we go.
So Lucas, what does Daddy do for a living? Work. What kind of work? Plans for the city? What kind of plans?
Do plans.
So yeah, so if you don't know what we do, our kids don't even know what we do. I think we're going to keep that forever. And when Lucas ends up, he's 40 years old, he's going to have this to look back on. But just to segue, oops. So let's see. Yeah. What do we do? Community development in the planning division, it's, I don't want to toot our horns, but it's one of the most important and far-reaching functions of local governments, even though many people don't really even understand what we do or realize what we're doing. But that is really planning and zoning, because everyone at the city, especially us in the planning department, have to deal with the fact that there are some necessary land uses, like where a jail might go, or sewage treatment facilities, or mental health treatment facilities, where neighbors might be opposed to it, or even new large housing developments. So the planning department's responsible for processing all of these applications. We're responsible for creating regulations that guide growth in the city. And then we're also responsible for reviewing applications for new businesses and new development to make sure that they meet all the city regulations as well. So, we've got the police department that keeps us safe. We've got the fire department that keeps the community safe, but we are really responsible for how the city itself looks and grows into the future. So when an application for new development does come to us, whether it's controversial or not, we are just focusing on making sure that that development meets our regulations. As you can see on this slide, we can't regulate what specific businesses decide to come to town. We can allow restaurants in certain zones, but we can't cherry pick which restaurants come in here, whether it's a Taco Bell or an Applebee's or a Starbucks. It's just a restaurant. And then we also can't force a business to open up in Watsonville, even though we might want to. So planners are generally, we're all, it's a profession that requires at least a college degree. And we plan out the uses of land within cities based on what our city needs. We typically focus on economic growth and development, as well as housing. So as we look at long-range development plans, we want to make sure that we have enough jobs for our residents in the future, and that we have enough housing for our residents in the future, and also in just the next few years, not just 30 years down the road. We work on those long-range plans, but we also work on current planning. We also work with all other departments in the city, because each department has their own regulations as well. Like Public Works, they have standards for how wide a sidewalk should be, or how wide a street needs to be. Or the fire department, they need to make sure that they can get their trucks down a street and turn around. And the police department, they also look at certain aspects, even like a restaurant or a bar. They want to make sure that there are security cameras and there's good lighting and visibility, so people are safe when they're coming to those buildings as well. So we work with all these different departments when we get applications in. And we also make sure that new developments don't degrade our natural resources, like our sloughs or our wetlands. And so there's actual state laws and local regulations that help protect our open space areas. So there are two main documents that the planning division is guided by. One is the general plan, and then the other is the zoning code. And I am going to hand the presentation over to Principal Planner Justin Meek, and he's going to talk about what both of these documents are and how they fit into the city of Watsonville.
Thank you. That was a good segue. I'm Justin Meek in the Planning Division. And first off, I'd like to talk about the general plan, and then I'll talk a little bit about zoning. And in terms of the general plan and zoning, think of it as a hierarchy or a pyramid. At the top is your general plan, and underneath it is zoning and other regulations that help further or implement the general plan. So as Susie noted before, when we talk about a general plan, we do this in coordination with other departments, city council, and the public to create a long-range vision for the city. And this long-range vision is what we refer to as the general plan. The process of developing or updating a general plan usually takes a long time, so often several years. And through that process, finding consensus, as you can imagine, with laying out the vision for a community is not easy, but of course is important to where a community wants to grow and change. What would happen, for example, if we didn't have a general plan? Well, and this is what did occur before general plan laws came into effect many years ago. You could have incompatible uses that could create problems, say houses near noisy factories, or perhaps under a flight path, or you might have inadequate roads to accommodate people's travel where they want to go, let alone utilities such as sewer or water lines to serve the community or industry in that area. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. This is just an illustration to show the general plan map. Obviously, it's kind of hard to display on a screen this size, but what you can see, particularly in the legend to the right and generally in the colors on the map, is that the city is broken up or designated different kind of land uses. You'll notice that the industrial area south and east of Walker Street is all in blue. That represents the area of the community that's designated for industrial type development. The green are generally public facilities. So some of them that you might note are things like Ramsey Park or some of our schools. And then generally speaking, residential areas are in yellow to shades of orange and light brown. And commercial areas are generally in your reddish hues. And so that's a way of displaying what portions of the community are designated for different kinds of land uses with the intent of making sure that they're appropriately that there's appropriate amounts for both for residential and job generating uses and in areas that won't create problems or nuisances. Let's go to the next slide. Now zoning, zoning is, if we were talking a little bit before about the general plan and a long range vision, zoning is a little bit more immediate and specific. And in short, when you think about zoning, as I mentioned before, that pyramid, it comes underneath the general plan and it implements the general plan and has to be consistent with it. So the local zoning ordinances include things on where you have permitted uses, where residential, commercial, industrial, other type of uses are permitted, whether by right or conditionally. And we can talk about that later if you like. And while the general plan might establish, say, the overall density of, say, residential uses, how many people per acre, how many dwelling units per acre, the zoning regulations establish more of a regulatory component. And that's like, for example, the bulk, and by that we mean, what's the minimum lot size for a structure to be built on? What's the maximum height of a building, or how far structures must be set back from one another, and or say, the sidewalk or property lines. These are some of the bulk regulations in a zoning ordinance. And zoning controls which land can be developed, and of course the purposes that they serve. Let's go ahead and look at a map of our zoning map. And if you notice, it looks awfully similar to the general plan land use designation. And that's, of course, intended because as it implements the general plan, you want to have the same kind of zoning districts that regulate what goes on the land as what's laid out in the land use diagram in the general plan itself. And so again, you see the same similar color schemes and patterns that we saw before, but just a little bit greater specificity. So for instance, a area that's designated for industrial might have a couple different zoning districts. One might be general industrial, and that's for your heavier, more type of activities that create more nuisances, more noise, more dust, more exhaust and things like that, versus maybe an IP or industrial park area, which might be for more R&D or certain types of manufacturing that doesn't create the same level of traffic or fumes and noise that where a general industrial would be more appropriate. Likewise, in your commercial areas, we break them out currently in terms of general commercial versus neighborhood commercial, thoroughfare commercial, visitor commercial, and central commercial. And all these ones are, again, intended to allow a range of uses and at different intensities. So for our most intense land uses, that's our central commercial core area. And we allow tall buildings, and we have different kinds of regulations to accommodate those kind of tall buildings versus say neighborhood commercial, which is really just to serve along some of our arterials and collector streets that serve nearby residents so that you could have shops and other services that would be convenient for the people that live nearby. Let's move on to the next one. So how does it all work, right? Well, and why is it important for homeowners to know, say, the local zoning regulations? Well, zoning can affect what you're allowed to do with your property, as I noted before. And while the typical typically not very restrictive, if you want to do something perhaps a little out of the ordinary, like maybe own a flock of chickens or run a business out of your garage, you should check with your local government first to make sure that you're allowed to do so. Plus, if you want to make any additions to your property, your local zoning ordinance can tell you what you are and aren't allowed to do. For example, if you want to install a fence, your zoning ordinance will specify, say, the maximum height of the fence that's allowed, or if you need to permits or inspections to be able to lawfully complete the project. This is the same for business owners, and Ivan and Sarah will talk a little bit more about business owners and those sort of applications in a little bit. If you're looking to open up a business in the city, there are certain zoning districts that you're allowed to own a business. So again, if you're a commercial activity, you need to be in a commercial zone, generally speaking, and some that are prohibited. For example, if your business is a tax preparation, a type of office type use, you'd be allowed to open in an office district in a commercial zone, but not in, say, one of our general industrial zones, which is intended for more manufacturing and warehousing, those kind of activities. As well as those type of office uses, since it doesn't generate, say, a lot of foot traffic, it's not really intended to go on, say, Main Street in downtown, where you want to have more active storefronts for retail or maybe restaurants that draw people in and make for a more lively environment. So I just want to touch on a few of those things, and I'm going to turn it over now to Susie, who will talk a little bit more about limits on government control of businesses.
Thanks, Justin. All right, so we hear this a lot, both in the planning department as well as in the community, at future businesses that residents want to see come to Watsonville. But zoning and land use regulation cannot force a business to come here. For instance, we've all been talking about wanting an InOut to come to town for years. I think at one point the city had a Facebook page dedicated to bringing InOut Burger to Watsonville. So why haven't we made that happen? What are we doing? With zoning, as Justin said, we can create zoning districts. We can develop regulations for land uses in those districts, like residential districts or commercial districts, but we can't force businesses to come to Watsonville, nor can we prohibit certain businesses either. In both cases, it's really up to an individual business to decide whether Watsonville is a good location for them. So the city itself, we generally don't build things. We regulate private developers when they build things. So we set the stage, but other people have to come in and actually build and run the businesses. In the case of InOut, It's a private company. And if they're looking to expand locations, they're going to look for an area or a town that's really going to give them the best return on their investment, or really the biggest bang for their buck. So larger businesses or chains like InOut Burger will analyze a lot of demographic data when they choose where to open a business. This includes the number of people that live in the city, the number of people that live within a 5 or 10 minute radius of the city. So that's kind of like their commercial customer draw. They'd also look at the average income of local residents, as well as educational attainment. And for Watsonville, historically, these numbers have been lower than Santa Cruz or Monterey or other areas. So let's say we do want an In-N-Out to come to town, but we don't want a Taco Bell. They are both restaurants. So there's no way that we can pick between an actual franchise or business name. Like you could say, we want a Kmart, but not a Walmart. We want an In-N-Out, but not a Taco Bell. If it's a retail location, a retail use can come in. If it's a restaurant location, a restaurant use can come in. Similarly, we've heard that residents want more entertainment. We all want more entertainment options in Watsonville, like bringing back a bowling alley like we used to have. We'd love that too. Unfortunately, we don't have any owners of bowling alleys or potential owners of bowling alleys knocking at our door, looking to open up in Watsonville. So if any of you are interested in opening up a bowling alley or anything else like that, we would love to talk to you, because all of us would love to see more entertainment uses and things for families to do here in Watsonville. So hopefully that kind of helps explain how this works and how businesses decide to come to Watsonville. And I'm going to turn it over to Ivan and Sarah. Sarah, they're both going to talk about the steps to opening a business in the city. And I know we're going to start with Sarah.
Awesome, Susie. Thank you so much. So my name is Sarah. I'm an associate planner along with Ivan Carmona, and we are typically, if you come into our one-stop office over here at Community Development at the Old City Council Chambers, Old City Hall, you're going to typically talk to one of us first prior to opening up your business. And so Susie, could you click to the next slide? And so similarly to kind of what Justin and Susie were saying regarding a tiering system for land use, there's also a tiering system built into our zoning code for types of uses and the type of zoning approval you need. And so typically what we suggest is that if you are interested in opening up a business in Watsonville, specifically if you're looking at commercial locations as well, or are looking into buying any equipment associated with your use, that you come talk to us over here first so that we can give you a roadmap as to what types of permits you need, if additional improvements like building permits or engineering permits may be required prior to you opening up for business. And so typically, again, there is a land use process and then potentially a building permit or engineering permit process before you can be issued a business license to open and operate. And so in terms of our kind of tiers that we look out over here in the planning department, we have types of uses that require planning commission approval. So those types of uses are typically in our zoning code referred to as conditional uses. Specifically, they're special uses or require issuance of a special use permit. Now, these types of uses are typically sensitive uses. So in certain commercial areas, like if you wanted to open up a bar or a restaurant with live entertainment, that may require additional assistance from the police department. Or if it's a cannabis related business, those typically require additional level of approval in a public hearing. And so the process for you to obtain your zoning approval is a little bit longer than, say, the counter approval, which I'll get to in a minute. Planning commission decisions may also be required for certain types of land uses in industrial zones that slightly vary from the intent of the general industrial or the industrial park zoning district. So certain types of automotive uses, things like that may also require issuance of a special use permit. Kind of below that tier is a zoning administrator approval, and that's typically what our zoning code refers to as an administrative use permit or a design review permit. Administrative use permits are for uses that are not as they may not have as much of a public safety impact, but still need additional findings and research done by staff to ensure conformance with both the zoning code and the general plan. This is typically restaurants with beer and wine sales require an administrative use permit. In certain zoning districts, outdoor storage of equipment to ensure that there's adequate screening and there's no fumes that would be impacting adjacent businesses or properties typically require an administrative use permit. Now, certain uses may be eligible for an over-the-counter approval like a zoning clearance, but may require a change in use that is triggering additional parking requirements or may have additional traffic impacts. And so again, that type of project may require you to do building modifications or certain technical studies for staff to determine that that project would be in conformance with our zoning code requirements, and as conditioned, it would ultimately be able to be approved, and we could work with you and kind of let you know on the front end what types of improvements or conditions would be tied to approval of that project. So it's kind of a mouthful. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we can again break it down a little bit in a little bit more finer detail. But most businesses in the city limits typically fall into the over-the-counter category. The over-the-counter category refers to you coming to our one-stop shop, and we can talk to you about your type of use. And ultimately, staff can approve a zoning clearance or a home occupation as the use is permitted by right. So a zoning clearance is a very simple form that you obtain from us in planning. And typically those are your retail stores that are in commercial zones. A therapy office and an office zoning district would be eligible for a zoning clearance. Various restaurants without beer and wine sales, again, would typically qualify for a zoning clearance if they're located in a commercial zone. And we've actually seen during COVID a pretty big increase in home occupations. So people are starting to start their own businesses from home, retail, online sales, store, an office space for like providing remote therapy sessions or remote services typically do require a home occupation permit. And if your use falls into that category, we can typically help you fill out your business license application and fill out these forms, and we can typically issue you a planning approval the day that you're applying with us. And so that's kind of a quick roadmap of zoning. And I'm going to pass it over to Ivan to talk about our specific business license process and how that's different from the zoning approval.
Thank you, Sarah and Susie and Justin as well. The point is, you would like to talk to planning once you want to start a business. It's always important to talk to us to make sure you have the correct zoning. And along with the zoning application, you can also submit the business license application as well. So the business application is required for change of ownerships, establishment of new businesses, and you need to have the business license prior to opening up your doors to customers. The business license will be submitted at the same time as the zoning clearance. The business license, though, takes about 5 to 10 days to approve. It's not an over-the-counter approval because it depends on the type of business you are establishing. The city here, planning staff will route the business license application to other departments such as finance, fire, and police to make sure if certain inspections are required before you open your doors to customers. What you need to do on the business license application is identify your ownership structure as well, whether you're a sole owner, a partnership, corporation, or an association. You need to identify that on the business license application. Once you do identify the ownership structure, you need to provide yourself as owner representative. And for each business license application, we do require the social security number of the applicant. Now, if the applicant does not have a social security number, they can use their ITIN number, which is issued by the IRS. So we do allow those type of people to have businesses here in the city, whether you have a social security number or you don't. Once you have identified those information, depending on the type of business you are establishing, if you're going to be vending of any kind, you are required to get a California seller's permit. from the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. That is a free service that is done online. There is an amazing website called www.calgold.ca.gov that lists a process for each business type according to the jurisdiction. Some people don't understand or know what is required. If you come visit us here at the planning office and CDD, we'll be happy to assist in any way we can. We do our best to provide not really information, or I should say not teach you how, but it's basically showing you how to get your business started, how to get your doors open, whether you need a building permit or you don't, to get the doors open and start serving customers. Once that is identified and you have the business license certification, you can hang that up on your wall in your business, and then you'll be finally able to open up your doors to customers. So really, whether you get a special use permit, administrative use permit, a zoning clearance, or a home occupation, or just a change of ownership for an existing business, you do want to come see the Community Development Department to make sure you update the business license application to identify the new owner. Or if you're even relocating your business, you really need to talk to us to make sure you have the correct zoning designation and you update the business license certification so we have the correct information on your business. Because as Susie made everyone aware, emergency services is important, and we need to make sure we have the correct information, just in case there is an emergency and we need to provide services to these business. We got to make sure we have the correct information, and it's just about documentation of your business, whether you're getting an addition, remodel. That way, if in the future you decide to sell your business, you can come see if we have plans on file, because as people are not aware, all our information as far as permits are public knowledge or public information. People can come to our office and request to see any documentation we have. We'll be happy to provide the documentation as long as you come and visit us, and we'll be happy to speak to anyone who visits our office. And with that, I'll end the section regarding business licenses. One more thing to add: food services. Food services, you do need to have your environmental health permit from the County of Santa Cruz Environmental Health Department. And we can also assist with that. We do our best here at the One Stop to provide you all the applications for each department, whether it's Monterey County Bay Area Pollution District or Santa Cruz County. We do our best to fill out those, or excuse me, print out those applications to each applicant and make sure we provide a roadmap, try to make it easy as we can. Sometimes it is daunting visiting the office, but we'll do our best to be friendly and make this very accommodating for our community. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ivan. Let's see. So I'm going to pause there and see if we have any questions. Let's see. If anyone in the any of the attendees at this point have any questions, please raise your hand. See, I am not seeing anything. Jimmy, do you have any questions? Oh, wait, Damaris just, okay, let's see, raised her hand. Hold on. Okay, you should be able to speak.
Okay, you guys can hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Okay, I just want to let you guys know that I appreciate you doing this. I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I was definitely one of those people that was not so happy to hear we were getting another Starbucks. But my question is, you know, how can we as residents of the city become more involved in the process of, I would say, like the decision making or maybe the development, just so that I know you guys said you can't regulate businesses coming into our city, but are you guys worried about like the gentrification of our small community? For example, we're talking about Santa Cruz, which is like maybe 3 times the size of Watsonville. They have what, 7 Starbucks or 8 Starbucks there, and we're 3 times smaller and we have 7 Starbucks. So it kind of makes me question, like, are we worried about gentrifying our community and how we can get more involved in the decision making? Hopefully you guys are able to answer that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question. And after after this, I'm going to share a couple things that the city's putting on over the summer, so you might be interested in. But yes, that is something that as planners we look at and definitely work with the community on. And as we change regulations, we also, or look to change and create future plans. These are considerations that have to be made. In fact, I'm not sure if those in the meeting are aware of our effort with the downtown specific plan. But just last month, we had our latest advisory committee meeting, and that whole plan is looking to kind of revitalize the downtown, including the streetscape, widening sidewalks, increasing density, creating better circulation, making it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. And Justin and Matt are putting great information in the chat. I see things going back and forth. But our last meeting focused on affordable housing and strategies really to combat gentrification, so that as we are improving our downtown, we are improving it both for the people who live here now, as well as future generations and people that may choose to move to Watsonville. But that is definitely a concern, in that when you improve the city, that things will happen that will force the current residents out, whether that's increased land values, increased rents, et cetera, et cetera. So these are things, all very important issues that we have to really delicately balance. One of the things that the city of Watsonville historically has been really strong with, and the person providing interpretation tonight, Carlos Landaveri, he's our housing manager, is really providing affordable housing in the city and requiring new housing developments to include a percentage of affordable units. So we have been doing that in Watsonville since the 1990s. Other jurisdictions in the county do not have such strong affordable housing regulations. And so that's one way to really ensure that that we have housing for all people in Watsonville, all ranges of economic backgrounds. And so that all of us can afford to stay here and enjoy Watsonville. Another piece of that is just simply providing more housing. As we all know, there is a huge housing crisis throughout the entire state, and it's only going to get worse. And so really Watsonville has been working with housing developers and really trying to incentivize and allow for more housing development to be built, so that just kind of, it relieves the tension. It's just kind of, the supply and demand. If there's too much demand and not enough supply, the rents and the home prices go up. So the more supply, that housing supply we have, the the affordability is there. So I hope that answers part of your question. And then I don't see another hand up. So let me go back to sharing my screen, and I will let you know a couple things that the city is bringing back this year. So the first thing is the Summer in the City internship, and this is for high school students. So if any of you have high school kids that are interested in learning how local government operates, and as well as explore careers in local government, please have them check out this program. So it's during the summer. They would come to the city Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. They would have some classroom time. And then in the afternoon, they would intern with one of our city departments. So in the past, we've had people that have helped out in our housing division. We've had people help out with code enforcement, building inspection, as well as in our planning division. We love having them. You can also this year intern at the Pajaro Valley Unified School District as well. And students will get at the end of the program $1,000 stipend, which is amazing, and 2.5 units of elective credit. So that's one way that kids can get involved. And then for us adults, we've got the second Watsonville Academy. We had our first Watsonville Academy right before the pandemic, and then it hasn't been held the last couple years because of COVID. But this year it's coming back, and it'll be June 23rd to the October 13th. It's a 9-week program. It's nightly. It's at night, 6 to 8 p.m. The application deadline is April 29th. So you've got the link on your screen. You would get to meet the mayor, Ari Parker. You get to meet on this slide, the city council, not just the city council. Sorry. You'll get to meet city staff and the department heads, tour city facilities, and it really helps residents become informed and engaged, because during this whole Watsonville Academy, each week that you meet, you'll get presentations from each of the different departments, and then we answer all your questions. So you get a really in-depth understanding of what each of our departments does and how it kind of all works together. So I highly recommend the Watsonville Academy. It's free. There's even dinner every night that you attend. So please, if you're interested, apply. Other than that, I would continue to monitor our social media pages, tune into our city council meetings, definitely read the Our Town newsletter. These are all different ways that, to just kind of stay informed and involved with what's going on in the city. And then also, some of the council members as well put out information on their social media accounts about things that are happening, things that are coming up in the city as well. So I don't know, Jimmy, if you have any other ideas you want to add?
Well, thank you. I want to say thank you again. I hope I have my camera off because it keeps on freezing. So it tells me I have an unstable connection. So we need to work on this broadband issue. But I wanted to say thank you again. And I think I hear a lot of people saying, put in a bowling alley, or, the Kmart building, we can do a bit bowling. And so I think that hopefully people have an understanding that, private property, that people get to make the decisions on what they want to put on their private property. And we would, of course, welcome anybody that wants to put a bowling alley in. I mean, I would be first in line. I support it, but it's all about the funding and the support for it. So, we need to have those people and attract those kind of business owners to our community. So do we do anything to attract business owners?
When we had the redevelopment agency, which was what disbanded in 2012, we did do outreach, and we had more of a functioning economic development department that worked with attracting local businesses. Right now, we do not have anyone at the city that is actively working to attract businesses into town, but as something that we will try to pull back in and include as one of the city functions in the future.
Thank you. I hope that, the community got a good overlook of how, your department works. And if there's any other questions, I please encourage them now. This is the time to ask them.
Definitely.
We will be using this tape as a future reference So ask away.
Yeah. And as I'm waiting to see hands go up, I just want to let you know, we are here Monday through Friday, and our counter hours are 8 to 12 in the morning or by appointment. You can always give us a call at 768-3050, or come on down to 250 Main Street. We are in the old City Hall building. We're not in the new one across the street. So yeah.
Are there any, I know people like to be in the know. Is there anything good coming into Watsonville that we haven't announced yet?
Oh gosh, anything good? Well, okay, so y'all know the development going on across from Grocery Outlet on Main Street. So that is going to be, oh, you guys are all going to scream, but there will be a drive-through Starbucks. But there is also
that's how this conversation started, was a post that I did.
Yeah, at Chipotle as well there, and I think there's several other retail spaces that oh, Justin, yeah.
Yeah, one of the other ones, since I do the plan review for those, there's a tenant improvement. Well, let me take a step back. Some of the other businesses we might expect would be, say, other fast casual restaurants like a Habit Burger. I'm sure there'll be a few more. I don't know if they have their full mix of businesses fully lined up, but now that they have Starbucks, they have Chipotle, Habit, and others will come through. You probably see like a cell phone company,
Spectrum.
something along those
Spectrum,
lines.
yeah.
There's certain groupings of businesses that tend to go into these types of developments. So we'll see more of them. In talking with their team, it sounds like they're aiming to open in the summertime. So keep an eye out. They are, making good progress with the development. If you drive by, you'll probably see, obviously all the buildings are up and some of the windows are being put in, and it's starting to look like real buildings that are getting closer to being finished. They were working on the sidewalk areas recently, and so step by step, they're building up the site and getting it ready for people to patronize.
I heard that I actually ran into.
Uh-oh. I think we are going to have to run a special line right to Jimmy's house.
Next, oh God.
I'm sorry. Okay.
This is so bad. Like, I'm telling you, this is my experience with the internet.
Wow.
And I was teaching, so yeah.
Okay.
But can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm actually just moved into a different room. So I heard that there was going to be a wood fire pizza place in the East Lake Shopping Center. Did you hear that? Would they need to come to plans? Do businesses like that need to come to you if they take over a different business?
Yes. Yes. Especially if they're doing wood-fired pizza, because that's a very special oven. So we would definitely need to get that inspected.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm out on the streets listening to people.
All right. Well, hopefully they'll come talk to us, because that does sound delicious and exciting. I wonder if it's going to go in. I mean, is Chili's pizza?
That's where it's supposed to go into.
Yeah.
Right here.
So,
So.
all right. So maybe it's the same oven. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. And, we've got, housing developments. We've got a couple applications in for large industrial buildings out by FedEx, by the freeway off Ohlone Parkway. Yeah, but, really, I think we've got a lot of downtown property owners who are eagerly awaiting the completion of the downtown specific plan before they start really developing or redeveloping sites. So I think in the next few years, we're going to see some positive changes in the downtown.
And I don't know if you talked about this, but did you talk about the developing of the land near the FedEx?
Just did.
Okay, that was it. Okay, yeah. So we're bringing in jobs. That's jobs, and I think
Yes.
that that's good for our community.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, let me just jump in real quickly and just to build off of, and you mentioned some of the recent development, some housing as well. For those that may not have noticed, there's a recent one on Airport Boulevard that's beginning construction, and we should see another housing development soon starting construction over on Freedom near Atkinson. So you may start to notice some changes and some more what we call infill development in town.
That's right. That's right. So at 1482 Freedom, there are 53 units that will be breaking ground probably in the next month or two. And that's a nonprofit development. So those are affordable units. And then on Miles Lane, similarly, there's going to be 72 affordable units right off Freedom Boulevard, kind of as you go down the hill and up. That'll all be redeveloped in the near future. Yeah, so a lot going on.
Well, thank you. If there's no more questions, we can call it a night. And I really appreciate you all staying after late this evening to speak to our public and answer the questions that people are wanting to know.
Oh,
So thank you.
definitely. You're very welcome, and thank you for the opportunity, Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Carlos, for translating. We appreciate that.
Okay.
And then and I will see you guys all very soon.
All right. Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
thanks.
All
Bye,
right. Thank
everyone.
you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye, everyone.